I'm talking with Professor Joe Janes of the iSchool at the University of Washington, widely known as a regular columnist in American libraries and the editor of Library 2020, Today's Leading Visionaries Describe Tomorrow's Library. So I would like to ask you what you wish that current and future library advocates knew and did about advocacy. What should we know? What should we be doing?
Well, thanks. I'm glad to have the opportunity to share some ideas about this. First of all, it's important to say and to understand that advocacy is a critical piece of any library environment, any library community. Any library is beholden to somebody, beholden to some community, to some organization, to some school, to some university, to some corporation or organization. And that necessarily involves telling them your story so that they understand it, so that they know why you're worth it. And ultimately, advocacy is making the case that you are worth their resources. You're worth their time, you're worth their attention, you are worth their resources. And for some people, this comes naturally. And for some people, it feels really forced and contrived and mercenary. And sometimes it is forced and contrived and mercenary. And that doesn't make it any less critical. That doesn't make it any less helpful. And it doesn't make it any less important in the grand scheme of things, because not only is it a way for you to get resources, it's also a way for you to be better understood by your community and also to better understand them. So it isn't an add-on. It isn't it's every encounter at the reference desk. It's every story that's told in a children's story hour. It's every research project you do with a member of the faculty. It's every meeting you have with the president of the university. It's every time you run into the CIO in the elevator. It's every time you have one of those moments. That's an opportunity for you to say, hey, did you see that program we run last week? Or, hey, did you know that we helped so-and-so get a grant? Or, hey, did you see that we, contributed to the ROI of the company last quarter? Every little one of those is a touch point, and they add up. And, it's marketing campaigns and all the rest of it, but it's that retail level, hand-to-hand kind of contact as well. And then, what's the story you want to tell? Well, there's the little offhand things, and there's the little, you're working with an undergraduate or a ninth grader, to help them work on a research project, and that's advocating for the library because, you're helping them and they think better of you because you helped them. A couple things I would say, one of which is advocate for the library you are and the library you want to be. It's really easy to fall into the kind of gauzy, sepia-toned, isn't the library wonderful because we are a refuge, because we are a magical place where stories are told, blah-de-de-blah-de-de-blah. Okay, all true. We've saved people's lives. Many of us in the library field are people whose lives have been saved by libraries. Absolutely on board with that. But that story has been heard and told, and there are other stories to be told. Advocacy is also an opportunity for you to think about where you want to be as an institution. What can your library be? What should your library be to your community and clientele? And telling these stories at the Rotary Club meeting or in the president's office or with the CEO is an opportunity to get feedback. And when are you losing them? And when are you gaining traction? And what are they responding to? And what questions are they asking? And what do they get interested in? And what do they decide to volunteer for? What do they decide to write checks for or invest in? Those are ways not only of telling the story to your audience and to yourself, but also to engage with your audience, to engage with your clientele, and think about where the library can be, ought to be, should be, could be. So that's a yet further dimension for this. I think you also need to think about advocacy in the terms of the listener. It's very easy to tell stories about what you do, what you have done, what you are going to do. circulation counts and collection sizes and number of reference questions asked and answered, and how many people turned up to the tax workshop, and how many kids turned up to the storytelling, and that's fine. But when you're talking to the president of the university, she's not interested in how many books you have. She's interested in how you're making the university more of what it wants to be. And when you talk to the CEO, he wants to know how you're contributing to the bottom line. And when you're talking to the mayor or the city council or the president of the library board, they have a vision for what the library is going to be, and how do you fit in with their vision, not only of what the library is going to be, but where the city or the county or the municipality is going to be. So you are not an island. You are part of a much more engaged community setting context, and often in advocacy, you have to play on their turf. So how are you furthering the university's strategic mission? How are you making the city or community better? How are you furthering the academic goals of the school? And that's the piece that then, oh, okay, you're not just a place for me to get, murder mysteries to read over the weekend, but, if the mayor likes murder mysteries, provide murder mysteries to the mayor for the weekend, because that's how you get them wrapped around your little finger. There's more to the story than that. So tell the story of the library you are and want to be, not the library that you think people remember, because now you're advocating for something that doesn't exist. And ultimately that's not only untenable, but false. And it gives people a kind of very dated idea of the library. And I don't think that helps anybody. Articulating what you can do that no other institution, no other entity, no other profession can do, and hit people where they live. The good news of all of this is that people love us. People love libraries. People love librarians. We are not a profession or an institution that people have ill will toward. We are a profession that people have great fondness for. Often, but not always, great memories of. But at the very least are positively disposed to us. Very few people hate librarians, so that's good. There's a reservoir of goodwill. There's a reservoir of good feelings about what we do in the institutions we represent and the way in which we work. And that's a great platform to stand on, but you can't just stand on that platform. You have to use that platform in the service of these broader goals, in the service of helping your institution to grow, to thrive, to develop, and to be a positive benefit to your community and clientele. And advocacy is an integral part of that, taking advantage of that reservoir of good feeling, but then extending that so that that feeling is even better for the next generation of libraries and librarians to build on for what's to come.